Just a Job is the podcast for the modern woman to redefine what success looks like. We highlight real women and their real stories. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Monday. It is Just a Job. Ellen and Sarah here, and we're kicking off today's episode. Honestly, I feel like we have so much. Ellen already has her phone up with notes, and I have a desk full of things that I want to talk about. Mine's kind of more show and tell. I don't know what yours is. Where do you want to start? I feel like I've got a healthy mix of like funny stories, some's work related, and some is serious. So it's like a nice mixed bag. Is a mixed bag corporate slang? I feel like it kind of is. Oh, I don't know. But shout out, Riley texted me yesterday and said, I have another corporate phrase to throw in. Ooh. Workshop. She was like, her company uses the word workshop if they're doing like a short meeting to workshop something. Oh, as like a verb. Yeah. Weird. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Thank you for the submission. Just call it a meeting. It doesn't need to be a workshop. Yeah, that is weird. We're not Santa's elves. I'm selfishly gonna go ahead and get started. So yeah, I start my new job on Monday, so I feel like I'm frantically doing all these things to wait a second. Hang on. I think this is new to our audience. Let's you just like jumped the gun right into this new job. Give us a little more fluffy excitingness. Yes. Thank you. I am breezing past it because I'm like, gosh dang it. I'm eager. I'm a project manager role for Bank of America. So it's exciting. So Ellen and I found our way into fintech together. Yep. But water's fine. Come on over. I know. I'm like, this is the biggest company I've ever worked for. It's so funny when I think about Bank of America, I think about the credit cards that my parents had when I was growing up. Like I remember they're like bright red Bank of America credit cards. So anyways, I started Monday and just like allowing myself to take this week to do things that I needed to do. So one was doctor's appointments. I had a dentist appointment yesterday and a dermatologist appointment. Wow. And I've decided that I'm going to need to just like buy all the sunscreen in the world as I've gotten older. I have freaking melasma and it's like so disappointing. So I'm looking at my Ulta MD and I'm putting this out here because if anyone has any recommendations for a spray like setting that's SPF, like a setting spray with SPF. Yeah, now that I'm like in an office, I feel like I just need something to make me excited. The other thing is I fell into a TikTok trap yesterday after my dermatologist appointment. I was like, of course, I made it through the dentist and the dermatologist. I deserve a sweet treat. So I went to Wegmans to go get an Olipop, and I was perusing the ice cream aisle because I just was like having a hankering for mochi. And instead I found these. Oh my God. I'm so jealous. I've been looking everywhere. They were sold out at Whole Foods. Yeah, well, they only had the grapes. And I first off was shocked to find them. But then have you ever seen a grape this shape? That's giving oval. It's oval. I won't it's like this. Really long. It's a very long grape. I will not eat this into the microphone because it causes me to just salivate like no other. And that would not ASMR be plus drool. Gorgeous. I'm like, bleh. But anyways, so those are my two things. Obviously, we need to talk about Harrison Butker. But Ellen, I want to hear what your list includes. First of all, congrats on the new job. That is exciting. I'm happy for you. We are excited to hear about our like crazy corporate journey going forward. It's going to be exciting. And I'm thrilled for the grape finding for you. I'm very jealous. That might be on my to-do list this weekend. Find some yummy grapes. Okay. I'm laughing at my first one because I just have to like set the scene for you. Okay. So Tim and I have one car and my parents have an extra car. And they said, until you guys figure out what you want to do, use this car. And anyone that knows me well knows that this is my Nana's car. And if you have ever seen it, you know why I'm giggling. It is, I think, like a 2004. That even might be generous, to be honest. That's generous. Yeah. Toyota Avalon. And it is like, if you close your eyes and you think of a silver Nana Toyota car, bingo, you've got it.
And it still smells like my Nana inside, which is not a bad smell. It smells nice, but the smell reminds me of her. My Nana has not technically owned this car for 6-7 years at this point. So, but it's still called Nana's car. It's old, it's clunky, it gets the job done. It's another car. It's great. So I have been taking sweet old Nana's car to work. And the other day, I finished my work day. I get back into my car and I'm leaving and I'm going slowly because it's in a parking garage and it's dark and I want to make sure I'm, being safe. And I'm just kind of like taking in my surroundings and I'm looking at all of these like brand new Mercedes, BMWs, fancy shiny Teslas. And then there's me, beep, beep, in this little clunky, like rusting Toyota. And I just
no, that's in, Ellen. It's in to drive the beater of a car.
Oh my god! I just kind of had like I like break the fourth wall moment. And I'm like, this is so funny to me. I just was like cracking up the entire way out, and I was like, and I'm driving past all the electric cars, and here I am in this dinosaur of a car pulling out of the parking garage. I was dying laughing to myself. Okay, that's like one fun kind of work related story I wanted to share. My next point, I'm just going to read it verbatim because it's funny. Rent the runway, stunt on these hoes.
That's what you wrote?
Yes. I've decided to reinstate my Rent the Runway and I'm obsessed with it. I have this green vest blazer that's arriving today. I'm so excited to wear it. I'm like going to be the cutest girl in the office. I cannot wait. I wanted to share that just because I'm very excited about it.
Send pics.
On that point, 100%. I will be making TikToks at the wazoo for that. Office fashion cozy. I saw someone in the office the other day and they had this like really cute, it was like a Lululemon sweater. Okay. So like, it's a nice sweater and they had it on. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. You look so cozy. I really like it. We're in an area where it's like all the cubicles are open and stuff, right? And then I hear them later in a meeting talk shit about me. And they were like, yeah, someone said I looked cozy. Rude. I was like, hello, I'm over here. Yeah, I heard that. So that was a little uncomfortable. And I was like, fine. I will keep all my comments to myself. And I know that my outfit is prettier than yours. So whatever. We're not going to spend time talking about Harrison in this episode simply because we have a lot of notes and supplemental TikToks that we would like to have a further discussion around. So pause on this conversation for another time.
Paused.
I wrote viral TikTok down. Excuse me, just a job. We went viral on TikTok. Thank you, Chrissy. Do you feel so famous?
It's funny because I think back, we don't do these things for this. And I've always wondered what it felt like. I mean, It feels, I think it feels cool, especially, because the video and the content of the video was, I don't know, so touching to people. It wasn't like us just like frolicking around that went viral. Like I'm glad something with like, not that we aren't cool.
It was like, it was meaningful.
Yeah. Something with substance went.
Yes. Yeah. Something of substance. The next point I put is mentoring. I've had a couple of people now reach out to me through TikTok and ask me to be their mentor, which I'm like,
cool.
So flattered by. It is so lovely. I had a conversation with a woman earlier today and it just like is filling my cup immensely. I feel so grateful that I get to do that. And it's so full circle and it feels so amazing. So those are my updates. I'm very, very happy and excited. I feel like I'm in a good spot, We
love it. Happy Friday. Well, technically Monday is
Happy
Friday.
Monday.
We're recording this. We are going to head into Amanda's episode. Amanda, you'll learn about how we were able to connect, but to me, I feel like Amanda equals badass.
Totally.
She's just a badass. Like that's all I think I need to say.
She has such wonderful pieces of advice. Like I feel like I learned a lot, not only about her, but just like wonderful pieces of advice that I can take into my own life and professional experience. I really, really liked her interview.
Agreed. I know when editing it, I was like, ooh, saving that nugget. Ooh, saving that nugget. So many TikToks, so many videos to come out of it. But enough of us gabbing. We're going to head into Amanda's episode. Everybody have a good week and we'll see ya. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we have Amanda Northcutt with us. A little bit about Amanda. As a consultant, coach, 6-time executive, and current CEO of Level Up Creators, Amanda has launched, grown, and scaled online businesses with fantastic results. She has worked alongside solopreneurs, consultants, creators, and executives to help them connect deeply with and provide a great deal of value to their audiences and communities. Amanda's passion is helping others reach their full potential and build sustainable businesses that they love. Her strongest areas of expertise are recurring revenue products, management and leadership, and marketing automation. On a personal note, Amanda lives in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in Fort Collins. So cool. With her husband, Travis, and son, Kyle. She's an avid cyclist, bookworm, yogi, dog lover, mountain biker, hiker, and skier. No shortage of activities in your house. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. That's a very kind intro. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We are happy to have you.
Yes. So a bit of background how Amanda and I met each other. This is just, again, the power of networks coming into play. So Amanda and I met each other because we have a friend in common, a former coworker of mine, as well as a former and current coworker and team member of Amanda. So thank you, Natalie. I hope you are doing well when you listen to this podcast. Thanks for making this moment happen. Amanda, I am so excited to have you here, not only just to hear about your experience as a professional. Obviously, you have an extensive background and amazing career, but I think that I'm also really excited because you're very vocal and you're very much an advocate, which I appreciate as a woman in the workplace. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to start with baby. I was going to say baby Amanda, but that's not right. Young Amanda.
little older.
Yeah. We have some thoughts here. Young Amanda, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I had a lot of fun thinking through that question and remembering. But before I answer that, I do want to say it is so cool that y'all are doing this podcast. I really wish that there were resources like this available when I was starting my career, because it's like having a suite of digital mentors, basically, you guys are creating for other people in your stage of life. And I think that is so incredibly powerful and empowering to your listeners. So thank you for doing that. This is very meaningful. And I hope that I'm able to provide some wisdom and knowledge nuggets for people, since I am, I've been doing this like for 20 years. So
Thank you.
Okay.
That's very sweet.
Yes.
So when I was young, traditional, like I wanted to be a veterinarian because I loved our dogs, kind of a thing. And then wanted to be a WNBA player, was obsessed with sports. And this question that I was reviewing, before we obviously went live, I recalled a moment of going through my things at my parents' house before they sold their house about 10 years ago. And I found my first business plan. And it was dated in like 1994, 1995. And it was a business plan for how I was going to basically do in-home personal training for celebrities and have like a team of people that did that. And I had like this all written out on, just a like spiral notebook. So I thought that was sort of hilarious. So I've always been very entrepreneurial. I babysat as a kid. I was always trying to make money. I would do just about any, chores or anything like that to try and make a couple of bucks. I got my first job when I was 14 and have pretty much had a job since then. So yeah.
Amazing.
Creating business plans. That's quite advanced, I would say.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I was going to say, you shouldn't give it up. I feel like that sounds like something I would totally buy into.
That's too funny. You should frame the photo or the notebook page or something and hang it up, because that's a fun little ode to your youth. And maybe on a day that you're needing some extra inspiration, you can look there and find it, right?
That's a great idea. I have it in like a trunk, my camp trunk. I don't know if y'all ever had like overnight camp trunks or whatever, but in the closet right behind this wall, it's right there. So yeah, that's a great idea. I will totally do that.
Hey,
that
is ideas I'm happy to share, right? Yeah. So moving on through your experience of kind of navigating through the more typical career paths when you were younger to more that entrepreneurial spirit and mindset, what led you into either college or first jobs? Like, what was that experience like, and how did your environment then shape those future decisions you made?
That's a good multi-part question. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so I love sports. I loved fitness, and one of my early jobs as a teenager, the job that really sort of like lit me up in a really positive way. I sold shoes at this like boutique shoe store in Dallas, Texas. And I got the job as a, like my parents' friends. Just a second. I need to deal with my dog that just jumped into my lap.
That's okay.
Hi, doggy.
Hi, puppy.
Say hi, Ranger. You can edit that out or not, but I got to put him out of here.
That's okay.
This is not the first time it's happened. Usually my dog sleeps behind us, so we're doggy friendly.
I was going to say, Briggs just came up. I didn't know
That's
if you
good.
could hear him panting.
I can't, but he was having like a sneeze attack a minute ago. And I was like, something's wrong with you. I even told him when he came in here, I was like, I'm recording. You have to shut up. He didn't listen.
They never do.
No, they don't. Okay. Backing up a minute. Okay. First job. I was given a sales job at a New Balance, like boutique shoe store in Dallas, Texas, because my parents' friends owned the shoe store. And my mom still makes the joke today that like I didn't talk very much until like my brother went to college. My brother was 4 years ahead of me in school. And he is now a very, very successful lawyer. And so he just took up like all the airspace. And so I was always playing outside and being active. And my brother was the very talkative one. And so this was a funny sort of sink or swim moment for me. And no one thought that I was going to be successful at this at all, myself included. But it turns out I loved it. I love sales. I'm very, very extroverted. That is so energizing for me to help people, like find the right solution and set them up for success. And so I was sort of like a little micro version of what I do today. And so, I mean, that's kind of the thread that has, been a main theme really in my entire career. And so that was when I was 16. That was more than 2 decades ago. And so I knew that I wanted to do business and sales in some capacity. And I was hoping to combine those things in a university. It was always like a foregone conclusion in my family, like you're going to college kind of a situation. And so I went to Texas A&M University, my parents' alma mater, and majored in sport management, which was a very new field at that time in the early 2000s. And so that's kind of that was my hypothesis that would be the right sort of degree plan for me. In hindsight, I got a business minor with that, and all the classes are like sport marketing, sport management, sport finance. And so I got like a very significant business education there, but it was quite easy, honestly. I mean, like it was not, I struggled with biology and that was about it. But otherwise, that job actually enabled me to start working full-time when I was 19. And because like school just wasn't hard. And so I had a lot of extra time and was really wanting to do sales. And so I don't want to like jump too far ahead, but I got a major head start in my career, like massive. And so that gave me many, many strategic advantages early on. And I became pretty adept at like identifying points of leverage that I had, like the value that I was adding. And again, finding that like through line and consistent value that I could offer, and was looking to, in the most positive way, exploit those points of leverage. And I've done that sort of like rinse and repeat cycle for many years, and it's been quite effective.
Mm-hmm. How interesting that you were able to find that like sales mindset so early and know that you like it and that you could make a career out of it. I think so many people struggle with what do you want to be when you grow up? And well, I kind of like this, or I don't like that. And I think it sounds like to your advantage that you were able to hone in on that. One, you're good at it, but two, you can make money on it. And I think I'm jealous. I'm like, I wish I could have had that aha moment, but good for you for one, identifying it, and then two, again, leveraging it as well.
Yeah. Thanks. And I know that's super rare. Like almost nobody figures out what they want to do at 16. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I realized that I had a skill set. Yeah. And really loved it. So
yeah. And to marry I'm good at it and I like it. Cause a lot of times the jobs that you like, sometimes like aren't paying jobs. So to be able to find that combination of both, I am super curious. Okay, now you're painted the picture for us basically. So at 19, you're like, okay, school is not that difficult. I have time and I'm eager. What was that first job that you jumped into? Describe that acclimation period of trying to balance school. Even though it was easy, there's still work to be done,
Yeah. So I got approached for a sales job. This was online sponsorships and advertising in the early 2000s. This is like selling air. We're talking like banner ads, like 728 by 90 at the top of your screen, you know, that nobody has anymore. And sponsorships on this local website called mybcs.com, mybryancollegestation.com, which is where Texas A&M University is in College Station, Texas. And this was like a local news website and discussion forums, also very, very, very new. But this guy in the community we knew owned that website and was trying to like monetize it. And so he tapped me to start selling advertising on commission only. And y'all, it was hard as shit. Like I got my
commission
ass
only. Oh my gosh. At 19.
Yeah. I got my ass kicked repeatedly, but I eventually figured it out because, you know, you get enough like reps or at bats or whatever you want to say. And like you figure it out, right? You figure out what works and what doesn't work. And like having to figure out the value equation for online advertising when that field was truly in its infancy, was a very interesting process, right? But I didn't do that for very long before I was able to parlay that into this other not so little business called texags.com. The guy who owned mybcs.com, hi Josh, is partners with this guy named Brandon Jones. Hi Brandon. And the two of them owned this texags.com, Texas Aggies, right? And it is now the largest and most successful collegiate fan website in the world. And so there's like sponsorship sales and advertising sales, and then also like a membership community. Basically you paid $13 a month is what the price was, you know, way back in the day. And these like rabid Texas A&M Aggie fans, of which there are hundreds of thousands of graduates, and they are like a rabid, crazy fan base. And so win, lose, or draw, like those fans are in, they're paying for recruiting information and just like stuff that I did not understand. I still don't quite understand the infatuation with, but and so I actually ended up spending 9 years at TexAgs, and during that time was able to start a couple of other companies and again leverage my experience and the name that I created for myself there. Like I created this revenue model that really moved the ball forward in helping other collegiate fan website owners, again of which there were hundreds at the time and now there are thousands. It's a huge funny niche market, unlock monetization on their websites. And so, I just, again, leverage that to do consulting, leverage that to start another company. But then I had this massive health crisis when I was 25, 26, 27. Like it was really, really, really touch and go for a while. So I ended up having to quit that job at TexAgs and started doing consulting. But that really did catapult my career options for sure.
Sure. That's so interesting. So you're the first job, smaller company, you're figuring it out as you go. You kind of find the secret sauce, if you will. You're finding out what works. And then you launch into this massive company. Hang on, pause on that for a second. Yeah. We also talk a lot about how it's so interesting hearing everyone's career journeys and learning about all these niche industries that you just don't think of, and jobs that you have no idea exist. And I mean, I graduated from Alabama, so I get the crazy sports fandom. Yeah. And like when you were talking about the Aggies, I'm like, yes, I've experienced those fans. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's so funny that I just kind of had that aha moment of, oh my gosh, like what a huge industry. And that, talk about brand loyalty. I mean, good Lord, those people are diehard fans. I joke, it's like a religion sometimes. And it's, I kind of just had that aha moment of, wow, I didn't even think of what a huge industry and huge business opportunity that is. Plus with your leverage of being able to figure it out, like I said, and then make that transition. So going back to my first point, what was that transition like? What did you like maybe or not like going from the smaller company to the big guns, I'll say?
Oh, I loved it. It was so much better. It was still really, really, really hard because no one was selling anything like this, like at all. But the opportunity to make much, much higher commissions, like was there. Like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel if I could just kind of like push through. And I did. I was actually the second employee at TexAg, so they weren't as big then. They are quite large now, like a very like large media company. But I basically told Brandon, like the co-owner, like, hey, so I'm doing this over here for Josh. I'm going to come do this for you. And I need this much commission. And it's like money that's being left on the table otherwise. And so he was like,
Sure.
okay. So I kind of just like said, I'm here and I'm doing this.
Yeah. That's good for you.
Yeah.
To vouch for yourself. I am so curious, and I know that the majority of your career is in sales. And we can get into this, but like to me, first off, I remember reading a book and I don't remember what it was, but there was a line that's like basically you're selling every day whether you realize it or not. You're always selling. You're convincing your dog to eat their food. You're convincing your partner to like go on a walk with you. Like you're always selling. You just may not think of it that way. But to be in that role, especially knowing the stakes that is purely commission, what was it like for you? And like what's the kind of personality or traits that you see work best in that environment?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't like the typical sales archetype, like the hunter, I'm gonna go out and like make the kill, go for the jugular, that kind of like, that's bullshit. That doesn't work. That's like old, shove it down your throat sales. That doesn't work anymore. Sales is based on service and deeply understanding what people want and need and what is going to provide the value, outcomes, and transformation that they are desiring and that helps them get what they want, whether that is something in their personal life or if they want to impress their boss or their partner or their kid or whatever it is. You're just helping people, you're helping match a need or a want with a solution. And if you can do that in a way that is truly ethical and authentic and with this posture of service, like those are the best salespeople. Those are actually the best salespeople, right? And I love recurring revenue because you have to be really good at delivering, right? Like making the sale is just part one, right? That's just the beginning of the relationship. But with like recurring revenue, you have to continue to earn it. You have to continue to sell and have this relationship. So those are the most challenging business relationships in some ways, but they also reap the largest benefit and reward. And so I think that's well worth the effort. And if you're that kind of person anyway, why wouldn't you sell something that's going to continue to pay you over and over and over as opposed to one and done, right?
Definitely.
I appreciate that. I think that's a very appropriate and fresh perspective on sales in general, because outsider perspective, previous companies I've looked at, you hear all the crazy stories about sales, the hunter gatherer. We even, Sarah, you and I have even joked that like I feel like I can sniff one of those douchey sales guys out from a mile away, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like they all have the same personality to me. They all dress the same. They all look the same. So I appreciate
across industries. It's not industry specific. Yeah.
Exactly. And I appreciate that fresh perspective of like, yes, that stereotype exists and yeah, it's around it's there regardless, but I appreciate the fresh perspective of at the end of the day, you're finding and bringing a solution to a need. And that's the, if you could dial it down and make it super simple, I appreciate that. So going back to your story and your journey, you're going through your experience and you took some time off to deal with the health crisis. What was that transition back like into the workplace? And walk us through what that experience was like.
Before I answered that, the transition out of my job and like out of the workplace, and this is very temporary, that was awful. My entire identity, I was, big fish, small pond. My entire identity was wrapped up in my success at that job. I was very, very successful. I made a lot of money, more than like any of my peers, and took like a lot of pride in that. We weren't showy with it, but like I knew it and I thought it was just super cool. Like I've always thought of business and sales as like a game, and I'm competing against myself. I'm an extremely competitive person when I want to be. I used to be all the time, and now I'm like pretty selective. Like a lot of things that I used to care about, I don't anymore. But so I think I'll probably bring this back around a little bit later, but like not remembering that like you're a person out, you're a human being, not a human doing, and your worth is not equated to your job or what you're doing in your job or your paycheck or your lack of paycheck or lack of job as it may be. So I think I learned that lesson the hard way, like really, it was really pretty ugly. And so I would not want to get myself in that position again if I had it to do over. So the transition back into the workplace was great and super fun. I mean, it has been a total roller coaster. It's been many years since then. And like I have been on protocol after protocol after protocol after protocol constantly. I mean, constantly. My house is like a physical therapy office. You would not believe the like equipment that I have here. But there is like a light at the end of the tunnel. Literally, maybe I'll be disease free by the end of this summer. And so that's
Amazing.
actually huge.
Wow.
So transitioning back into the workforce and doing consulting was great. I needed to make as much money as I could in as little work time as possible. And so I really embraced this model of value-based consulting where you're not charging by the hour, but you're charging based on the value that the company or person that you are consulting for recognizes on their end based on like what you're bringing to the table. And so I was super fun. I loved it. It wasn't super hard to like go back to the well of my previous, network and drum up some business. So I guess that was not terribly like eventful, like going back.
But still learning to find, because I think that it sounds like for the first good chunk of your career, you're in sales, you're leaning into this competitive energy and it's like feeding you and you're just really, really thriving. You still have that after your experience with your health. It's just finding how to make it work with your current existence. And I think a lot of people like needed to hear like the human doing versus human being. I wish I could just splatter that across my head and just look in the mirror and tell myself that every morning. Like you cannot operate 100% all of the time. Like look around in nature. Everything has some sort of season of slowness, of stillness. I mean, there's 24 hours in the day and how many of it is in darkness? And it is sometimes scary to realize that like it takes such a serious experience to kind of have that refresh. So if anyone's listening to this, like take the time that you need, not because it's forced, like slow down a little bit. But I appreciate your perspective. And I've told you this, Amanda, like you are so transparent and vulnerable in sharing about that, because I think a lot of times people hold parts of their life back when they show up in a workplace. And like, I'm not Sarah sitting in front of my desk for 8 hours as a different human. Sure, I show up a little bit differently, but like my life outside of that is to me more important and makes up who I am more. I'm curious, in your experience, like after going through those years of health crisis, like how did you show up differently in the workplace? And like, were you initially vocal about it, or did you share with anyone what you were going through?
That's a good question. No, I was not initially vulnerable. I feel like for a long time I was very protective. I didn't want anyone to smell weakness, basically, or doubt any of my abilities or anything like that. And so I mean, it's really not until the last couple of years that I have been more vocal and vulnerable about it. One, I did had a long time consulting client and fractional executive position for this Silicon Valley consulting firm. Actually left that to start Level Up Creators, but their CEO, cool lady, she made it okay to show up as I was and like to, hey, I've got to like go off video and go stretch out or roll out or do this thing or whatever it is, or I'm taking pills on calls or whatever the case may be. And so that was pretty cool of her. And that was kind of the culture at that organization where like you can show up and be a human. And so that was nice. And that gave me permission to start sharing a little bit more. But then when I was not working for anyone else and I was no longer vulnerable to being like fired or questioned or anything like that, that's a lot easier when you're the boss and you're the CEO of a company to set the tone and set the pace and open the door for those kinds of conversations and that level of vulnerability. And so I hope that I am encouraging other leaders in particular to do the same thing, because if you're not creating a safe space in the workplace for vulnerability on any level, like people cannot bring their full selves to work, and you're not going to get the long tail on that is like you're not going to get the productivity that you want because people are not able to bring their full selves to work.
It's so interesting, the culture aspect of it all. And then to add on top of that with the consulting aspect as well, you have multiple clients and you are engaging with more companies than a typical full-time employee would be. So with that experience of that client that you were comfortable with and allowed you to show up in a way that was comfortable, and you were able to be maybe more vulnerable than you were with them with other clients, how did that impact your mindset as a leader? And what were maybe some learnings you took from that to use in the future as in your career going forward?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was in the recent past, right? So, I mean, I stayed with them. I worked for that company for 3 years as a consultant. And so, I haven't stayed at any other company other than TexAgs for that long of a time. So that encouraged me to stay on, which is great. Like, take note if you're listening, employee retention, right?
It builds the loyalty.
Yeah, it does. And it was the first time I had seen that modeled, and I was like, oh, this is okay to do. I can do this. And it's cool when people show up as themselves at work and you get to know them, and you don't have to like put on your armor. You don't have to armor up, as Brene Brown would say, to go to work and show up on a Zoom call, things like that. You don't have to fake it. And the pandemic, I think, and everybody being on Zoom and going remote and things like that sort of accelerated that a little bit. So, I'm trying and see the glass half full sort of with the pandemic, which was really hard, but that was, I think, a positive outcome of that, as like there are kids in the background of not just like women on calls, but dads too. So that was cool.
Yeah. I think like being vulnerable, and again, culture, like it's not used for ammo, it's used for understanding. It's such an important place to be. So you talked about the experience of consulting. Take us through that gap, or not that gap, the gap that we have in the story currently of, you're entering back into the workforce, you're consulting, you're working with a lot of businesses. You mentioned you founded a lot of businesses. Tell us the whole story.
Again, it was really like, what are the levers I can pull to make as much money as I can in as little time as possible, and to be as flexible as possible? Because we had a young kiddo at the time also, who's now a teenager. And I still have tons of appointments every week, but early on, 6, 7, 8, 9 appointments a week at times with, various doctors, chiropractor, physical therapists, massage therapists. It really spanned the gamut. I was trying everything for somebody. If somebody could figure out what the hell is actually wrong with me, it took a long time to get like accurate diagnoses. So, but I love consulting. It is so fun. That's still like effectively what I do, and spend the vast majority of my time on is helping people find and exploit their unique points of leverage, and try and turn those into recurring revenue. So what consulting enabled for me was a look under the hood of so many businesses. When you're hiring an expensive consultant, like typically no holds barred, like everybody shows up and like shows the behind the scenes, peel back the curtain of what's actually happening in the business, as opposed to like what their marketing shows. And so, that's a revelatory process every single time I look at someone's business and help them. And I always end up learning a tremendous amount. So to have had dozens of consulting clients, and then at this consulting firm that I worked out in Silicon Valley, they had dozens and dozens of clients that got to look under the hood at as well. It's just fascinating. You learn so quickly by doing, and those lessons have really stuck and enabled me to catapult the success of clients that I have now, because I have so much experience under my belt. I've seen so many different businesses and business models and roadblocks, and how people have kind of tackled those, and hiring challenges and staffing challenges and leadership and cultural challenges. So ultimately, this has worked out great for me. I wouldn't do it exactly the same way, but truly, my illness gave me a lot of pause in my life. And so, before that, I was like just a freaking freight train. Like there's no stopping me, extremely competitive. Nothing was standing between me and a goal, period. And so I had to refocus my energy, to your point earlier, Sarah, about focusing my competitive energy at work to focusing my competitive energy and drive to not dying. And so, and like, I remember having a moment when my son was a toddler and things weren't like not looking good. And I was like, I don't know if I can say this on here. You can bleep it out. If not, I was like, fuck this. I'm raising my son. Mm-hmm. There's no other woman or anyone that is going to raise my son. Yeah. And at that point, it was just, that was the decision. I made a decision. And when I make a decision, like, you can just consider it done, basically. Mm-hmm. And so here we are, like, fast forward over a decade, and I've about got it done. I have no idea what we're talking about, but that's like.
It's powerful, though. I mean, taking your, at least from a slightly outsider's perspective, that drive, I think, is probably what gave you your success throughout your illness and brought you back to a place of, like you said, that moment of, I have no other choice. This is, I do not have an option for failure, nor will I accept failure. And I think it's all of your previous experience, maybe it led you. And I hate the phrase, but I love the phrase, everything happens for a reason. And I think that's such a wonderful example of that, of your personality and your upbringing and that drive to bring you to where you are and to show that success and have that come through for you. I have a question really quickly to slightly divert this conversation about, I think I've spoken a lot recently with people who are newer in their careers or looking to make a transition from, I'll give an example, teaching to project management. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into consulting regardless of the area of specialty?
I would definitely work for an experienced consultant rather than trying to just like go out on your own, unless you have a point of leverage that you can exploit that will quickly result in business. So it depends on what your financial situation and circumstances are and how much experience you have. But if you can work in a small consulting shop with someone who is an expert in your field, and you can see yourself sort of becoming them over the next 5, 10, 15 years, and that they're willing to mentor you, that would be a massive accelerator in your career rather than trying to just figure it out on your own. The book that I read that really facilitated my career and like thoughts about value-based fees was $1 Million Consultant by Alan Weiss. I think that book is old as dirt. I'm sure there's new
writing
stuff.
that down.
Yeah. There's a lot, I'm sure, of more like updated materials, but I bet if you like Google that, those other books will show up too. Mm-hmm. But you're just trying, in consulting, ultimately you're trying to, you're a professional question asker. And so in the first couple of years of my consulting career, I started keeping track of questions. Anytime I would hear a good question on a podcast interview or in a conversation or anything, I did a lot of Googling and searching and refining. But even like back to selling sponsorships and stuff, I was asking questions, trying to get to the bottom of what does this person actually need and want in terms of like, from a psychological perspective, foundational desires. Why, like, what are the deep, deep things in them they want? Is it power, control, wealth, luxury? Like, what do they actually want? And then what business problems need to be solved in order for them to get there? And so if you can deeply understand what the individual needs on a psychological level and what the business outcomes need to be by asking exceptional questions, you will get to the bottom of it. And then if you have the experience or the purview, you should be able to reverse engineer a solution and therefore like a roadmap to get there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's kind of like the best formula for consulting, but I mean, I have a massive list of questions that I still refer to today, but I made a point, years ago to like memorize the vast majority of them. And so I can call upon them in the middle of a conversation at any time to get the exact information I'm going for.
Mm-hmm. Professional question
book recommendation. Asker. Yes. And the questions. Okay. That's fabulous advice. Thank you.
Yeah. I also like taking it back your answer about knowing enough about all of these businesses. I can't even imagine as you're starting to get into this and you're peeling back the layers, it's really just the purest example of like, we're all just figuring it out. Like, nobody has the answers. Even the companies that look like they do, it's a total facade. Like, we're all just figuring it out. Were there any moments in your consulting career where you were just like, I could do this better? And then did you take that idea and run with it?
Meaning like take someone's business model that I was consulting for, or
yes,
sort of. I mean, in a way, like I feel like I've taken what I'm doing now is the culmination of all of those experiences and all of those learnings and all of the recurring revenue businesses that I've been a part of. So I have like one company, they do two different things. We have a consulting firm. It's like high touch, white glove, done for you. And then we have Level Up Creator School, which marries business school or business skills with like a personal brand. Or if you have a course business and you want to turn it into a membership community, you're trying to sell high ticket group coaching programs or whatever the case may be. And so that's a like done with you model. So that's our recurring revenue model. You sort of get our team, our consulting team as your fractional advisory team. And so I've kind of got my business set up now for the best of both worlds. And again, it is like the culmination of everything I've learned to this point. So, I mean, yeah, you could totally say I've like ripped off this business model. It's a great business model.
But that's added your own flair.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's only so many ideas out there. It's just about who can be the best and who can make the different iterations better. Okay. So we're at the point in the story where you're at Level Up Creators. Talk us through the decision, or not the decision, but the decision-making process to start it. And then, because you're so action oriented, what were the first few steps in building momentum and building the business?
Yeah, good question. So I was sort of in the creator economy before it was called that with TexAgs. I think technically like a couple of guys like monetizing their expertise and building a community around that. It's pretty like creator-ish. And then again, as much money as possible in as little time as possible, I went to SaaS, software as a service, right? Like that was the major growth market in early 2010s, I think is when that was. And I knew that was where the cash was going. That's where the venture capital and private equity funding was going. And so, I followed suit. And of course, my like membership community skills translated pretty well to software as a service world. So I got tired of, I think during COVID, everybody kind of went through this reflective period and kind of like, am I doing what I want to be doing? Is what I'm doing helpful to, is part of the greater good? Does it have meaning and purpose to me? And ultimately what I came up with was I really loved the people that I was working with at that most recent company, but I did not feel the personal level of like purpose and intention. I'm like, I'm at a point in my career, I've done really well. How can I help? We're going to have the most impact in a way that aligns with my value set. And ultimately, this is like a lot of thought and intention and questioning and thinking and talking with my mentor and my partner and all that stuff about what to do. And what I came up with was I really want to help individuals who don't have traditional like access to wealth build wealth based on their knowledge, expertise, and influence, basically who's listening to them, right? And so this like creator educator market is ultimately our niche. I mean, even inside the creator economy, even inside like the influencer space, creator educators, we define those as like 28 to 55-year-old-ish people who have had the time to develop some level of expertise in their field. They've kind of, had some level of self-actualization. They've come into their own and know what they're doing, know what they want to offer to those who are listening to them on social media or in their email list or whatever. And I was like, most of these people, their expertise is not in marketing, sales, customer success, product development, accounting, finance, hiring a team, creating an organization. I was like, those are all of my favorite things, right? Literally. And so basically what we do at Level Up Creators is you, creator, person with personal brand, whatever, you bring your knowledge, expertise, and wisdom. We bring our business skills, and or Level Up Creator School is our business school. And we marry those together and like have a banger of a business for you. I mean, our goal is to get people as far as they want to go in their business. And we help really like lay the foundation for a lifestyle business or a business that wants to be scaled and maybe even eventually sold. So
I think you tap into such an important market. There's so many people with influence. There's so many people with an online presence, whether they have, like you said, the course or they have newsletters, like they're all businesses. And I think sometimes people forget that like influencers, as glamorous as a job as that looks, or YouTube content creators or whatever, they're doing all of it. They're doing all bookkeeping, like you said, running the business, everything. And so I think that you have just tapped into like such a special, needed market. So like kudos to you for riding with it. I'm like, everybody, if you're out there and you're listening and you have a business, check them out. We'll make sure to include it in the show notes. Thank you for sharing that. I want to take it back to a little bit more of like a personal question, if you will. If you were looking at 19-year-old Amanda, who's just entering into the workforce, what would you say to her? Like if she was sitting across the seat from you or table from you?
I think those pieces of advice are taped to the bottom of my gigantic monitor that I'm sitting in front of that I look at every day. And so a couple things are: stop shoulding on yourself. Like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Like, probably shouldn't. So stop and actually being intentional. Make people feel seen, heard, understood, accepted, known, cared for, and loved, no matter what interaction I'm having, whether it's like in this format or with a client or a team member or a customer service representative. Everyone is human. You should treat them as such. Another one is rule number 6, and that is basically the punchline of a long business parable, which I will definitely not share. But rule number 6 is don't take yourself so goddamn seriously. And so that's probably the big thing. And again, decoupling your value and worth as a human being based on what you do or do not do, or make or do not make, or the job that you have or do not have, or relationship that can be applied anywhere. So just kind of like, you have time. You have so much time. And so you don't need to rush through life, but rather like step back. And if you can find the middle of this 3-circle Venn diagram, like, you're onto something. It's your passion, like what you're most passionate about, what you are an expert in or are becoming an expert in, and what people will pay for. If you can find the middle of those 3 circles, you will be happy and fulfilled, as long as you are putting your health and relationships before work. So correct prioritization is really huge too. And I did not do that well in my 20s at all. And I paid for it.
It's all learning, right? And I think like oh my God, a month from now, I'm turning 30. Whoa, a little scary. But I look back and like those learnings, it's like, I feel like I'm finally starting to come into my own. And the Venn diagram made me laugh because a couple of months ago, I was going through a job transition and I sat down with that Venn diagram and my head about exploded because I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, maybe let's revisit this at another time. And I haven't revisited it since then because it was truly like a mind-blowing moment. Yeah. But I think that's even just still taking that moment to reflect and be like, again, what am I good at? What is fulfilling to me? And then how can I make money from it? Unfortunately, this is a capitalist society. We got to make some money some way, shape, or form. But I appreciate those little nuggets because I think while they're hard to live out and physically do, they're wonderful reminders to have. And even just repeating them out loud, I think, is helpful as well. I've got another question for you. Looking back and doing some reflection on your career as well, any like crazy stories, good, bad, or anything in between?
I have 3. 2 of them
great.
2 of them are borrowed and one of them is mine, but I'm not going to say which is which.
Love it.
I like this. Okay.
It's like 2 lies and a truth, not truth and a lie. These are real stories though. Yeah. They're real stories. Okay. First one, being in a room with a CEO who is wildly inappropriate. And by that, I mean like cursing, yelling F-bombs left and right at like their main people, and being so unbelievably childish and acting like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. Unbelievable. And so I would call this person out and that would like sort of initially go well, but they did not like renew my contract when it was up. So I think bullies want to bully and they don't like to be told, not to be a bully.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. And then another was being at a conference, like in a conference room, at a conference, big conference table, before COVID, and someone was getting fired. So there were a number of people in the room, including an HR representative who like delivered the news to this person who was sitting across the table from them. And the person lunged across the table at the HR representative, who was formerly in law enforcement and did not have any trouble dealing with the situation.
Oh my gosh. It's like TV show kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It is TV kind of stuff. And then another one, I was applying for a job and getting, you get, I don't know if y'all get these kinds of LinkedIn messages, but sometimes people send inappropriate LinkedIn messages. And so this company that I'm interviewing with, like deep in the interview process at this point, one of their executives sent me a very inappropriate message on LinkedIn. And I definitely did not end up working for that company, but like sending that message to their HR rep, I'm like, y'all are recruiting me hardcore. And this is the culture that you want to bring me into. Like, have you lost your damn mind? And just like bringing that to the head of HR's attention, just like, mind blowing in a way. But there is a lot of bullshit out there, y'all. Early in your career, you got to know that and be looking out for it. And I know as women, I think we've all had at least one experience where we look back and wish we would have said something in the moment, but we were so shocked that we did not know what to do. And that's how bullies and assholes and perverts like get away with things. Honestly, it's not because they're not happening or a woman like invited that kind of attention, but it's more the absolute shock of being like violated in any way, shape, or form. But remember, it's not too late to go back and like address those things and run them up the chain as is appropriate depending on the situation. But don't take that kind of behavior. If you're working for a toddler, go work for someone who's actually an adult. But you are going to encounter situations like this, and it is shocking. The range of human behavior is it's really something. The longer you stay in the corporate world, the more special experiences you will have, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that too, because as you were going through your stories, I was thinking to myself, like, I asked the question not to freak people out or fear monger or any of that, but to know that, like you said, the bullshit's out there. And like you said, it kind of just continues as you go through your career path. So I appreciate that. Also, and throughout the stories you shared, there was an action from you to address the behavior, which I think is a great piece of advice and a great learning opportunity as well. Like Sarah and I have shared stories on the podcast about weird shit that guys have said to us at work and how we had the exact same conversation. Oh, I wish I would have said this, or I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. I was frozen. And I think it's important to share stories again, not to cause fear or frighten, but to just have that awareness and know that it has happened before, but also like use this as a learning opportunity that, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your career, and you taking action and saying something or reporting it or whatever the situation calls for will only serve you positively in the long run. So I appreciate you sharing those. Thank you.
Yeah. And it helps other women when you speak up also,
right.
Obviously, like this is something we all have to do in order to move forward and away from current situation. So.
Right.
Definitely. Right. There's probably more stories to tell, and I'm very curious. But I want to get into the big question, Amanda. How do you define success for yourself?
Yeah, I love that y'all asked that question. So on a day-to-day level, like getting my list done while also having taken a walk and spent some time with my son. So day to day, that's super, super, super important. I have a lot of relief when I get my list done. I tend to overschedule myself. Like I'm a chronic overscheduler and work on that relentlessly. And I'm still not there, but trying to improve. And then long term, I mean, being able to work somewhere that meets your financial needs, not even goals, but like just allows for the lifestyle that you want. You don't have to be making, you know, 200, 300, $1 million a year, 200,000, 300. Oh my God, 200,000, 300,000, a million, numbers and math, and so on and so forth. You don't have to make shit ton of money to be happy and live a comfortable lifestyle that you like and enjoy and can serve your needs, right? And also allow you to give back to causes that you want to support, right? Mm-hmm. And I do have pretty significant and lofty financial goals, but I also know that we've already done really, really well. And I just want to do better because it's fun. And I know that reaching those goals, I will reach those goals, but they're not going to make me happier. They're not going to change my life significantly. Yeah, it's like we have our basic needs met and then some, but it really comes down more to like being healthy and having relationships and just an amount of money that serves you well, allows you to give back, be comfortable, not be stressing about money. Mm-hmm. You know, really go for that. Don't go for like I've got to make $10 million by the time I'm 34. No, you don't. You really do not. You don't have to do that in order to be happy. But money is never beyond a certain baseline. And this is like completely scientifically backed. It just does not make you happy. And even if you have money, believe me, money will not automatically fix your health. If you have like a major health problem or crisis or emergency or cancer or whatever the case may be, trust me, trust me, trust me. So if you're sick and you're rich, you cannot enjoy being rich. I promise. And always putting relationships first. Relationships are just such that's where your wealth comes from, honestly. Like at the end of the day, your relationships are what matters, period. So invest in those.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. That's a good one. I need to keep some of that advice in mind as well. That's fabulous.
Well, I was also just gonna say thank you, Amanda, because I think it's important to provide that perspective of like, no matter what you think you want in life, like if you just have health and happiness through relationships and yourself, I think that like no amount of money, even today in the stinking capitalist society that we live in, where it feels like that's the only prize of success, if you will, like it's just not. So thanks for telling that. Needed to hear that. So how about we head into some rapid fire, and Ellen, I'm going to make you ask the first question. Amanda, I always botch this question no matter what. So Ellen is going to ask it. Oh my gosh.
Amanda, what is one thing you cannot live without during the workday?
Coffee and a walk outside for sure. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Coffee and a walk.
Classic.
What's your favorite way to unwind after work?
I love shooting hoops in the driveway with my son. That is my absolute favorite evening activity.
Mm-hmm. That sounds nice. Plus a walk. Nice. You are very active. Plus the Colorado thing, like it's making more and more sense the more I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah. We moved here from Texas for a reason.
Right? That checks out. Absolutely. What is your biggest corporate pet peeve?
Oh man, there's so many you could choose from. And I feel like I had an answer to this before. And now we've had this conversation and now I've thought of all these horrible stories and things. Just all the bullshit, honestly, like the faking and the flattery and the backstabbing and gossiping, just bullshit in general.
It's like high school.
Yeah, it is. It's so unfortunate. Amanda, what's one of the best benefits that you've ever had?
I've never really had like traditional job like benefits like insurance and stuff like that. But when I was selling like big sponsorship deals for TexAgs toward like the end of my career, I did tons of like crazy trade deals. Like my husband got LASIK surgery on an advertising trade.
That is amazing.
Yeah. What? Super, super funny and silly, like the wheeling and dealing that I did just for fun. Like it was just for shits and giggles, right? But I got all sorts of free stuff from that. I got this ring,
like,
which
oh, yeah,
is like diamond. You can't see that. It's like a tiny band, but it's like a diamond and garnet ring. Actually goes with an Aggie ring, which I don't wear anymore because we don't live in Texas. But yeah, I did that. I got a diamond ring on advertising trade.
Oh my gosh.
It's not I forgot about that actually.
Yeah, it's not just commission paychecks. You can get LASIK and rings, people.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, last question for you. What is your preference, in-person or remote work?
I really wish that I could have a hybrid situation. Like, I'm so extroverted, and so I enjoy like doing things like this, but I do miss some level of in-person work, but the benefits of having like a global team far outweigh that. So I just try and scratch that itch other ways, basically.
Sure.
Definitely. Oh man. Well, I think that there's so many more nuggets that you could probably share with us. And I know that you're only just beginning in your career. And I'm so excited to know you and to watch everything that's happening. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us on the pod today.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, Sarah and Ellen. I really appreciate it. Again, like what you're doing is super cool. I hope that your reach of this show goes far and wide and is very, very impactful because it's much needed. You guys are filling a need that's really cool. Way to go.
Thank
you. Keep doing it. Don't stop.
There's no end in sight, Ellen. You hear that? All right, everybody. Well, enjoy your Monday. We'll include everywhere that you can find Amanda, Level Up Creators in the show notes. Make sure to give us a follow, a shout out on any socials. And you heard it here from Amanda's lips. Share the word. Give all your friends a little shout out in their comments. We love to see all the love and appreciation. So get out there, have a good Monday, and we'll see you next week.